as social media was flooded with messages of concern, rumors, and even whispers that Scrappy might never be able to live the life he had known again. Close friends were terrified that the worst was about to happen. They were anxiously awaiting news of their beloved rapper's condition, and his mother, who was devastated, had been pleading for prayers. Just days earlier, fans were horrified and glued to their televisions when doctors reluctantly and grimly informed his family that recovery wasn't guaranteed. Lil Scrappy's battle has been a difficult one, filled with doubt, fear, and moments when hope felt like a faraway dream. The industry has been shocked by the news, and everyone is wondering how it happened. Get ready as we go over the specifics of Scrappy's amazing comeback, including the heartwarming reactions from his fans and family, as well as the behind-the-scenes conflict that nearly put an end to it all. What caused this remarkable discovery? What does this mean for Scrappy's future above all else? Fans of Lil Scrappy had spent sleepless nights checking their feeds in the hopes of finding good news because of a close family friend who had visited Scrappy in bed posted an enigmatic comment online late last night, which sparked them to keep praying because miracles sometimes happen when you least expect them to. Within minutes, people started to wonder if Scrappy was awake and if the doctors had changed their diagnosis. However, things had completely changed all of a sudden, and the rapper who had been cleaning for life appeared. The breakthrough came early this morning when Scrappy's mother, Mama D, finally uploaded a video. Even though there had been no official, although things were more complicated behind the scenes, hope had returned despite their optimism. The doctors were exhausted because Scrappy was still ill, and his loved ones would not have an easy time getting him healthy. The family had almost given up 2 nights earlier due to the intense emotions some were experiencing. Although her voice was shaking and her eyes were red, this time it wasn't, because after the doctors told us that Scrappy's had a real chance of getting better, fans took to the internet to express their relief and surprise. Other rappers and celebrities took to the internet to express their relief and surprise. Even while he was with his mother, Ma'am had been a strong force fighting tirelessly to get the best doctors, the best care, and the best prayers. At one point, she even got into a fight with hospital staff, reportedly telling a friend, "I'm conscious. I don't care." Doctors believe his body might not respond to therapy, and his health has been getting worse. There had been a lot of tension in the hospital room with whispered chats, silent prayers, and emotional challenges beforehand. But that didn't matter now because she had been by his side, keeping an eye on the monitors and saying encouraging things about anything else. "I just want him to be okay." She had told the doctor, "Don't give up on my son. I don't care what the numbers say. He's a fighter." And she wasn't wrong, according to an insider. Even the most seasoned medical professionals had been astounded by the ways in which Scrappy was retaliating. When they arrived in the early hours of the morning, Scrappy began to move, even though it was just a slight movement of his fingers. The doctor saw it as evidence that his body was finally responding, and by midday he had improved even more. His eyes briefly improved, and despite his ongoing weakness, he was aware of his, according to a nurse who had been keeping a close eye on him. He first appeared perplexed, as if he was trying to figure out where he was. But then he looked at his mother, and I can assure you that there was recognition in the news. Tears filled the eyes of the family members who rushed to his bedside like wildfire after being too young to comprehend the gravity of the situation. His daughter was finally permitted to see him. She took his hand and whispered to the medics, who had been preparing the family. Unfortunately, even though this news was encouraging, Scrappy's full recovery was still impeded by a significant obstacle: hope, but according to one of them, he is still in danger. His vitals are stabilizing, and if this trend continues, a full recovery might be in the cards. In the midst of all of this, conflict was starting to arise within his inner group and family, because despite everyone's celebration of Scrappy's progress, there was disagreement over what should happen next. He had a frail body and a long and uncertain road to recovery. His medical group has a rigorous approach because they believe that it should be the primary focus of his rehabilitation. contacted a number of pastors and spiritual healers and recommended that they participate in the procedure, but Bambi insisted on a strict medical approach. Their argument became heated when she said, "This isn't the time for experiments. He needs science." He meant rehab and professional care. Meanwhile, Scrappy's close friends were worried about their own relationships and had an encounter that almost resulted in a full-fledged fight in the hospital. Some of them thought that if he survived, he would rid himself of those who had only caused him stress and negativity, began to make decisions about his future, which would ultimately be his own. One of his lifelong friends was saying that he needed a new beginning and that there should be no more toxic energy. Would he listen to his mother? The battle for control of Scrappy's rehabilitation was far from over, even though his health had improved and the doctors were now cautiously optimistic. Would he try to mend his relationship with Bambi, or would he take a completely different route that no one had predicted? When Scrappy finally woke up in the morning, he would be confronted by a flurry of drama that had been building during his absence. His mother, Mama D, and his estranged wife, Bambi, discussed what was best for him. When Scrappy, who had barely been able to keep his eyes open the day before, heard his voice, the whole room froze. Although it was barely audible above a whisper, the tension in the room increased dramatically as he spoke. Mama D, who had spent hours sitting by his side, watched in disbelief and rushed inside when she heard his voice. "I'm right here," she said, her eyes already welling with tears. She took his hand and gave it a firm squeeze, saying, "I'm here, Scrap. I'm here, Scrappy." Her eyes opened for the first time, and she gave it a firm squeeze. His health had deteriorated, so he was aware of his surroundings, but the moment was brief because everyone had left. Mama's face clouded as a heavy stillness fell over the room as he muttered, "I need to talk to Bambi alone." His voice was rough, but clear, and he said, "I need to talk to Bambi alone." His top priority was now spending time with Bambi alone. We didn't show him any love. And I believe that everyone reluctantly left the room after he interrupted. Sounding a little harsher this time, but not before Mama D threw Bambi because she didn't trust her. And she wasn't the only one who was. Worried relationship before his hospitalization, with rumors that they were having a nasty split circulating. Some sources said that Bambi had already moved on, while others said that Scrappy had been spotted with other women, raising concerns about arguments, betrayal, and even possible adultery. However, when she saw Scrappy weak and vulnerable, it didn't seem to matter that he was now fighting for his life, writhing slightly from the agony. In the hospital room, his mind was sharper than ever, but his body was frail. He acknowledged that he believed that I would not wake up, so I assumed I was over. Bambi muttered, "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us." She tightened her grip on his hand as he looked at her, saying, "I need to know if we're done, but I'm not sure what will happen next." Bambi had been asking herself this question for days. Before everything she said was, "I don't know," but before Scrappy could answer, the door exploded, making her sure that their marriage was over. Now that things were different, Mama D wouldn't let Bambi take charge and hurried back into the room, her eyes burning. "I understand I've been here as long as you have, Scrappy," she said. Before Bambi could reply, Scrappy said, "Oh, do you care? Where was all this energy when you two were tearing each other apart before he got sick? Where was all this love?" Bambi had actually tightened her fists while you were off doing that. "You know what, Moan, can't you guys stop this now?" Atmosphere was one of extreme hostility, but neither woman spoke. Even though Scrappy was getting better, his family was on the verge of disbanding outside the room, and his close friends were also getting involved. Some of them were siding with him because they thought Bambi was present. Only because Scrappy's illness had drawn the attention of others who believed that Mad was being intrusive by failing to acknowledge that her child had a life of his own. Just as things were getting too hectic, a surprise visitor arrived, someone no one had expected to see. At the height of the tension between Bambi and Mama D, the hospital door opened, and a face no one had expected entered. Scrappy's ex-wife, Erica Dixon, the mother of his first child. As soon as she saw her, she rolled her eyes, but she chose to ignore them both and proceed directly to Scrappy's room by escalating the chaos. Erica folded her arms and said, "I heard you were in horrible shape, and I wasn't about to let it happen." Even though they had a turbulent past, Scrappy's face lit up with amazement when he asked, "What are you doing here?" Outside the room, Bambi was shouting. The water lines were being established, and Scrappy was caught in the middle. However, for the moment, none of that mattered because his mind was now racing with a new worry. Would he ever be able to perform again? Ka's family, unlike some others, has always been family. At the end, when Scrappy's strength slowly returned, it became evident that this was the start of a whole new battle. As he lay in his hospital bed, his body still weak from exhaustion, his mind racing with the chaos around him, and Bambi barely able to control her anger. Mama D was virtually celebrating her role as Erica, with Scrappy's true support system. He was stronger than ever, and Erica's unexpected arrival had only made things worse by rekindling tensions and old scars that had never really disappeared. In the midst of all of this, Scrappy began to question everything. "You don't have to worry about this right now," Erica said quietly, pulling up a chair next to him, concentrating on getting better while avoiding the stare from the hallway. Scrappy wiped his forehead and talked about his life, marriage, family, and career, and everything seemed to be hanging by a thread. Bambi, who had finally had enough of waiting outside, returned to the room and said, "We need to talk." Mama D, who was pacing the doorway, smiled as if she was ready for a fight on her own. When Erica turned to face Scrappy, he paused, then nodded slightly, saying, "Yeah, let me handle this." Bambi sat on the edge of his bed, her face softening, and then she scowled. With a deep exhale, Scrappy said, "What kind of question is that?" I hate how difficult everything had grown before. His health issue with Bambi and his actual own. "I don't know where I fit in anymore because of the way your mom has been acting and the way Erica just walks in here like she still belongs in your life," he acknowledged. "I don't know what's going to happen with us, but I do know that you being here means something. Do you even want me here?" Erica walked past her, giving her a knowing look. But before Scrappy could react, the door flew open again, and this time it was Diamond, one of his closest friends, who was staring at Scrap. In a panic, panting, and something was wrong. Scrappy moaned and Diamond hesitated before responding. "They're talking about replacing you, Scrap," she said. "But they're saying they can't have that because you haven't even left the hospital yet. Don't wait, Bambi." A thick silence descended upon the room as Bambi turned to Scrappy, panic flashing in her eyes, and Scrappy clenched. His jaw said, "I need to talk to them." Diamond shook her head, disagreeing, saying that Scrappy had worked too hard and fought too long to let it all slip away now, and that his music was his identity as well as his career. They wanted to know if Scrappy would be able to perform again, and at this point they weren't sure about your condition, so you should put your strength first. However, Scrappy wasn't listening, and if the label thought he was done, he should have grunted to prove it. He began to sit up, wringing in agony, but Bambi quickly stopped him by placing a hand on his chest. "Scrap, no, you're not ready." "I don't have it. If I don't fight for my spot, they'll take it from me," Mama D yelled, who had been listening in as she stormed into the room with fury in her eyes. "Mama D? This isn't something you can just fix well either," she added, adding, "I'll call up those idiots myself if I have to." Bambi rolled her eyes. Mama D shot back and Scrappy moaned, "I don't know what's going to happen with me and Bambi." Everyone fell silent as they watched him closely. "That hasn't stopped you from trying, has it?" he said in a strained voice. "That hasn't stopped you from trying, has it?" Bambi reached for his hand again, squeezed it, and then fought for it, and then did it the right way. "And it will get better." Scrappy looked at her, then at his mother, and then at Diamond, and he felt something for the first time in weeks. "Stick with me. But I know that I haven't done anything yet and that I didn't have hope for a while. There were still obstacles to overcome and people watching to see if he could succeed. But one thing was certain. Scrappy wasn't going to give up, not now, not ever. His journey has been a roller coaster of emotions, but the battle was far from over. But it appears that there is hope at last because the doctors have offered it. Will Scrappy make a full comeback and disprove everyone? Will his music career be able to overcome the skepticism? What about his relationships? Can he really continue without more drama? Tell us what you think will happen next. This story is far from over, and we'll be here to tell you every twist and turn so you don't miss what happens next. Please leave a comment below and hit the like button and subscribe if you would like to be notified when Scrappy's recovery is updated again.